Joe here from ActionX. Welcome to What's in the Tube. Welcome back. If this is your 7th rook... Hey everyone, Joe here from ActionX. Welcome to What's in the Tube. Welcome back. If this is your 7th Reacher Season 3 episode review, hope you're doing well. Hope you're staying safe out there in the big old world. Sad to say, it's another case of Joe forgets to double check his parameters for production when the video was fine, but the audio suddenly got desynced. Well, not desynced, it just didn't. For some reason, once I clicked my microphone to its original standing post, it stopped recording. So here I am, past midnight, recording a very delayed Reacher episode review. I do apologize for the delay, though. That was not my intention. But here we are, the penultimate episode of Season 3. We got one more week of Reacher content left before we are off again until next year with hopefully both Neagley and Reacher Season 4. But that is not here for Nay. We are here today to talk about the second to last episode of the season, which can be a little controversial. As much as I love Reacher, I think this season's been great so far. Obviously, we'll talk more about that in full in a few weeks. I want to say this episode of Reacher does not quite hit the same marks as the previous episodes. I am saying this episode is the weakest of the season. I have reasons. I have receipts. I will just say that this felt, for me, pandering a bit. It felt more like along the lines of we are getting to the finale, which is important, obviously. You want to tee up for a great finale, an amazing finale, because again, with these types of shows, you're going off the air for a long time. You want to leave it off on a high note. This episode did deliver some good moments. I'm not going to take that away from it. But what I will say is that there were certain moments as well on the flip side that kind of made me question, are we still doing Reacher? Because it didn't feel like Reacher. I don't know what happened. I really don't know. Maybe it's just a me thing. That could be the thing. It just, I don't know. Like, I had vocal reversal last week when I said what Reacher got out of undercover work and he kind of went straight back to being himself. I feel like now that we kind of like are now out of the undercover element, we're now going straight back into like traditional Reacher trying to just do shit his way. This episode does the job of kind of connecting the bridge, but at the same time, it was just missing a little something for me, a little bit of something, in my opinion. But we'll get to more about that in a bit, because let's get into the Butcher recap and talk about this week's episode of Reacher. So we picked off, not right as soon as last week's episode ends. We presumed that we were already set to go off to LA to pursue a potential lead that they could do to put an end to Quinn's organization. However, before we could take a 6-hour plane ride all the way to LA, they have a quick pit stop to do from Duffy as she is visiting an old lady who happens to be Trisha's grandmother, which she was taken care of before her CI undercover status was exposed. So Duffy has been stopping in from time to time to check in on her as her granddaughter cannot. They bring over some clam chowder over from Maine as a little bit of a peace offering. They sit down to eat it. And during this time, the grandma kind of already making remarks of like she looks at Reacher, she looks at Duffy. It's like you two got that doomy energy. Like you're like kind of ready to get out of your clothes and bone. It's kind of like a direct mark there. And Reacher doesn't inquiringly deny it. He just said, this is strictly a professional relationship, but I will admit she's only making me be here for my body. Which I'm just like, damn. Reacher's probably the most bluntest person I know. And even if he's hiding something, he can still find a way to like still be blunt about it, which I love about him. I want to say from there, after they get this little, like, you know, catch him on, I know we got a small scene with her talking about Trisha, about, like, you know, hopefully she'll be back to her someday, and obviously Reacher and Duffy kind of already know the parameters of this matter. They're trying to make sure that everyone is safe and sound, and that, you know, she will be back, but at the same time, you know, they got to be realistic right now, but they still have high hopes over there. They return back to their motel before, presumably, they take the long plane ride over to LA, where they're looking at their prospectful final lead in order to put an end to Quinn until they find a golden clinch, let's just call it, to be able to finally maybe get the progression they need to put an end to Quinn once and for all. We cut over to LA where Reacher and Duffy are, I want to say they're kind of going over the brass of the land again with what they're going to do. Again, this is their last chance possibly to get an insight on Quinn, who is again now on lockdown mode after, Reacher's been exposed, and of course the fakiness of like Angel Face and everything that they've kind of been up to so far. So this is their only chance, at least for now, to probably get Quinn back out in the open for them to take care of. However, before they do so, Reacher does something that any very like-minded male subject would do when it comes to them having a crush. As soon as Duffy mentions that, she was, I don't know how it got brought up, to be honest with you. She brought up to the fact she had an ex-boyfriend that cheated on her with her cousin, and then Reacher kind of just said something along the lines of like, oh, he was an idiot for doing that to you, for, messing up such a great thing with a great woman like you. And obviously Duffy kind of like needed this, like kind of like to be the last thing she needs to kind of confirm, okay, Reacher's not a total asshole. Let's just call it like that. And I think they redirect their attention back on the matter of hand, that what's the probability of them even getting out of this fully alive with everything they're set out to do. And Richard does bring realistic to the table, saying that, okay, if we are managing to get through tomorrow perfectly fine, there is a 25% chance we might be able to get everything on our agenda done. And one thing led to another, and Duffy starts stripping in front of Reacher, as Reacher initially attempts to deny it, saying that, didn't you tell me this cannot happen? And Duffy's like, nope, I changed my mind. I am giving you full permission. So they go off to Bone Town until we cut to the next day, where they both head out to sunny LA, which I'm not going to lie to you about. The shit was filmed in Canada. This was a clear, they just put an orange filter on this to make it seem like this was a California show. It's not. They're in Vancouver. They're in Ontario. They're in Canada. They're Toronto. I forgot where exactly they were shooting this season, but they're not clear. They're not in LA, so it's kind of obvious there. So this is the guy, the gun dealer, the drug dealer that Duffy and her team were originally going after before the season began. And even though she wasn't able to fully use everything she got on him last time, that she is here for another reason, another motive, as he does briefly push away Duffy, so that allows Reacher to kind of come in and say, like, technically you touched a federal agent. So technically she already has a legal standing to do whatever she wants to get to you. So obviously he gets a little discouraged by that. He has no choice but to comply. So Reacher lets him know that you're going to take us back to your art gallery peacefully. No questions or comments asked. So they head over there, and it's a very nice looking art gallery. I've seen better before in my day for many other TV shows. And it's clearly a front for his money laundering business, but however, he does say that everything he can showcase is legitimate, so there really is nothing that they can accuse him here. Which Reacher's like, of course. But they do show him another piece of video, another contradiction, because according to federal laws, that should a person have 3 federal charges placed against them that are successfully proven, technically there is no court trial. They will immediately serve a life sentence in prison. And since he already has 2 from previous cases, he just needs 1 more to go away for good. And they do show him a handicaps viewpoint, which originally they don't look too much into it, but however, Reacher says they did do a little bit of extra digging. And they apparently found that the doctor that was claiming that this drug dealer had arthritis apparently was being coerced by him to fake the documentation to get that status. So once they leak it to the appropriate sources, so this will serve as his 3rd official offense charge. So they make a deal with him that we will completely forget about this existence if you do us one favor, which is setting up a meeting with Quinn back in Maine, which he does, and he does willingly to get them off their trail. However, Reacher does say, okay, we will forget totally about the handicap thing, but the DA would love an excuse for you to come here and look for your entire thing without an official warrant. So have fun with that, boy. So the 2 of them are about to fly back to Maine. Meanwhile, Neagley, who is playing a little bit of hitman, not really hitwoman, not really, but more like just finishing up loose ends, going after the original connector between the 2 hitmen she took care of last time, to Quinn himself, who is she immediately basically like, look, you're gonna give me the information I require. You got really no choice in the matter. Either you give me and I let you live, or you don't give it to me, and then no one will suspect this was murder. Just being completely transparent with you. So he does admit that he was the connector between the hitman and Quinn, saying that that he was just hired. He was a former associate of Quinn long ago when he was known in his original form, his original name, and that he was just doing it, just still being a good loyal worker. And that was really all that was wrote about him. And then obviously this is also at the same time where Neagley gets the fill in on it, already knowing the guy's name. But again, Reacher never told her who exactly he was up against this time. So she knocks him out, and then immediately heads back to Maine as well to join up with Reacher and the others as they're orchestrating the buy. And also for somehow the senior agent manages to catch up to the vibe that Reacher and Duffy already boned. And he was like, come on. We're trying to be at least some level of professionalism here, which I'm just like, my dude. Professionalism fell out the window the moment you invited Reacher on board. Like that, the code of ethics, the code of conduct you had for this case was long over with already. So it's all fair game here. Sadly, Quinn does not show up for the buy. It actually turns out to be Beck himself, who was sadly was just recently punished for his insubordinance of letting Reacher and supposedly a bunch of other federal agents into the compound without him suspecting otherwise. So Quinn punished him by removing his ear, giving him a matching set with his son. So he meets up with the contact point, which happens to be Neagley, who, again, while she wasn't expecting this to work out, she does let him know, like, look, I'm going to give you an opportunity here. Reacher does care about your boy. To an extent to you as well. So if you assist us right now with the rest of this matter, we can probably get you and your son out of this, without injury. We can put an end to Quinn, and you can go back to hopefully leading some safe, sound lives, which originally Beck does not believe so. He just assumes Quinn and obviously the rest of the organization is too powerful for Reacher to take on. But however, again, Neagley just being completely on point. We're like, yeah, but the type of person Reacher is, he will not give up. So if he does see a legitimate effort to protect you, he will do what he can. But this is a one-time thing. If you back out now, whatever happens. You will most likely die in the crossfire. Which Beck's like, okay, fine, I'll do it. But he does warn him again, like, there is a possibility Reacher may not survive this. But again, Neagley said Reacher survived worse odds, so we're all good there. So the four of them meet back up in the motel room, eating some, I believe it's fish sandwiches. I don't know what this looks. This looks like crab meat sandwiches. I don't know. I guess they got barely any money around, so I guess this is all they can afford. Where they're kind of touching brass again on things. They know there is going to be a potential buy very soon, and that there is going to be several visitors from other countries attending and arriving to Maine very soon. So this is their next best lead into hopefully tracking down to where officially Quinn would be. So they're scouting out potential airports that would be potentially handling in international visitors. Neagley pulling aside Reacher for a moment to kind of get the brass of the leg, kind of like get the Neagley perspective, like how Reacher has been handling the season so far. She already knows that Reacher and Duffy boned already, and that Reacher does have legitimate feelings for her. This ain't the first time. And kind of letting him know, like, just be careful, as much as Reacher would want to protect her, make sure she is safe, that, this mission is important as well, that the best bet right now is for them to kind of, just maybe pull her aside from this case, let Reacher and the others kind of finish this off. And Reacher's like, nope, she already gives me the vibe. She doesn't care about her life. She's just willing to finish the mission. And that's one of the things I do like about her in a respectful manner, because we got to keep it vague for when it comes to Reacher. So Neagley agrees. And then this is one of the moments I didn't agree with the episode where she brings up the previous seasons, like how does Reacher keep getting himself into these messes, whether it is a drug ring out of Margrave, corrupt crops in New York, which I'm like, look, these are cool references. I'm not going to take anything away from that. I'm just saying that it just kind of felt a little forced for me. Like, I don't know, like, I think the closest relation I could say is like, no one's gonna remember this reference. It's from Kung Fu Panda, the first TV show they did outside the movies, and I think they were doing like this special event where they were fighting off a dragon, and I think the town people were like kind of motivating Poe to like, oh, but you took care of Tai Lung and Lord Shen. Like, okay, we know that you don't need to stay. It's kind of like how like I'm doing with my Suits LA, where like they're mentioning actors that we know will never come on the show, because they're just trying to get in our face about it. Like, for us, we know what happened. We don't need to do that. And I think one of the great things about the Reacher novels that I'm aware of is that everything is standalone in nature. And I do obviously understand the TV show is trying to be a little bit different from that, obviously referring to previous events as like, hey, those are happened, which I do understand. I think, when we got the Margrave detective cameo from season 2. I think that was a natural, organic way where like this kind of felt like a forced line to like remind people. I mean, for me, that's how I felt. That's how I felt on that scene, and I'm not trying to take anything away from that, but that was at least my take on that perspective of it. So yeah, I didn't really vibe with that one. We come back to the manor where the Becks, the son and father, are having a quick moment together. Originally, Beck notices a gun underneath his son's cloth, thinking that, oh, maybe he's finally ready to like take matters in his own hand, trying to stop him from doing so. However, once he reveals the true contents of it, it was actually the present he was going to give him to his birthday tomorrow, which the father does feel a little emotional about, because like despite everything that's been happening in the last few days, they still able to like, you know, that his son still thinks of him in a high regard of that, and it's actually it's a really sweet moment between them. So yeah, I do appreciate it. They talk a little bit how life was before everything, you know, when the mom was still around and before Quinn took over the entire operation. So it used to be a great time for the family. Now they're kind of, you know, suffering through the choices they're kind of stuck in right now, which is kind of unfortunate for them. But they do share a nice sweet moment, which I do take note of. And then following, so we get Beck meeting up with Quinn in his office, trying to just get an update on the buyout. They just want him to go over to the warehouse to make sure everything gets properly loaded into the trucks before the deal can occur. He asks for more specific information, but Quinn, again, being super on edge right now, just kind of goes up to him, kind of like squeezes his ear a little bit just to kind of remind him, you fuck with me, the other ear's going to go too. I have a feeling he's been dying to disconnect that earlobe as well. So that's Quinn for you. But however, he does give him some information that the buy is going to happen at a field by 9 o'clock during the birthday party itself. So yeah, that's at least the best information they can get right now. Neagly's playing surveillance over to the prospectful buyers coming out from the other countries. Reacher does get the call from Beck to let him know, like, yes, this is when it's happening. This is the time it's happening. This is your best chance to get it and like put an end to this, which Reacher does appreciate. Jotting it down and giving it to Duffy and the senior officer as they cut the connection. However, sadly, things don't go exactly the proper way, as Duffy and the senior agent does tell Reacher that they're going to go into a different direction with this final step in the operation, because of the sheer amount of potential gunfire they might be facing soon. And between the four of them, it may not seem sufficient enough to, well, I mean the four of them, the three of them, it may not be enough cavalry to take on an entire pseudo army right now. So they want to call in the larger agencies to kind of get back up on this matter to close it out. Reacher disagrees with this, since he knows if they get involved that they will not let him kill Quinn. They're going to arrest Quinn and then put him away, which is not what he wants. And Duffy's trying to make him see reason that they are going up against an army. They're going up against a lot of people that they don't have enough manpower to fight against. So it would be best for them to kind of, you know, get the partnership so that they have the best possibility to get through this. Reacher does not see it the same way, saying that Quinn does not deserve any form of arrest, not any form of the law system taking place. He deserves to die. That is not, he doesn't want justice. He wants vengeance. And I'm just like, it was clear as day this was meant to be Alan Richardson's Batman audition. This was like the first step to getting there, which I'm like, look, when it comes to cast, the fan casting, I don't really participate in those as much as I would like certain actors to play certain roles, because I want to see them on screen for a while. I think Alan Richardson would make a great Batman. I don't think he's going to be the Batman for the DCU. And I only say that because like there's just so many variables. I could be wrong though. Maybe they will pick him. Who the heck really knows? But for me personally speaking, I think that's just too much baggage. You know, he was Aquaman at some point, and then he was Hawk from Titan. So I don't think James Gunn would want to do that, to be honest with you. That's my opinion. That's just my opinion. And I'm pretty sure he's probably eyeing someone else for the role. So, but I do believe Alan Richardson will play a Batman someday. It just will not be the DCU Batman. That's just my opinion, at least. But however, Reacher does lament. He does let them kind of do their own thing. And they do go to the agency to kind of like fill them in on what's been going on the last week. Of course, obviously, he's pissed considering the fact that they've done all this off the books without federal approval, and that so much shit is going around. 2 agents are dead. So many resources have been wasted. A freaking safe house has been burned down. Like, generally speaking, this entire case has been fucked since the beginning. And I'm pardon my French on that. But even though they managed to dig get the buyout location, that they do have like the where the big deal's happening, he is a little bit less forgiving, and he does agree, okay, all right. So we will take over from here. We'll take care of the bus, and you guys will be on standby. And obviously Duffy and the senior agent do get mad. Like, the whole reason they're here is not for them to take over. They're here to get their assistance, and they're like, my dudes, you never even got a formal permission to do this in the first place. You should be lucky you're not getting court-martialed right now in this moment. We'll let you finish the case off, but it won't be on your terms. Eventually, he does like allow them. Okay, fine. You can stay in the surveillance van nearby. That's most as you're going to get to the closing out this case, which they kind of have to limit and agree to, but except for Reacher, who immediately kind of gives them the whole spiel of who he is and why he's here, and immediately they're just like very dismissive of him. Like, same with you. You could be court-martialed for everything you did right now, but that's not going to happen. We'll let you be in the surveillance van, and that's about it when we go arrest Quinn. And again, like, this was the other scene I mentioned where, like, it kind of felt a little out of place where, like, I know Reacher's a man of few words, but, like, I don't know. The delivery here just didn't quite do it for me. I'm going to be completely frank with you there. So I want to say at the same time, Beck goes over to the warehouse to handle the loading of the trucks. Does a random throwaway line with, like, come on, let's hurry up. It's my birthday, which I'm just like, yeah, I did not feel for that scene. I did not. We're back in the motel. They're getting ready to go, packing up their things for the surveillance van for the bus. And Duffy tries to console Reacher a little bit, but Reacher's not really having it. He's not happy with the final decision that they made. That, he was promised that he will be the one to finish Quinn, and now he's not getting it. And Duffy's trying to make him understand, look, there is a larger picture at play. We have to play it safe. And, at least by the end of this, everyone will live. Everyone's going to get, this is going to be fine. We're going to be fine. And that's kind of like what she's trying to pivot to Reacher right now about it. So, the birthday party is getting underway. We get another, cute, somber moment between, Beck and his son. Using the bow tie, tying it's like a little bit of a bonding moment. However, sadly, Quinn does pull Beck away to let him know that he will be at the buy tonight. He will be surveilling, and then once that's over, then he can come back to his little birthday party and enjoy his 50. Which I'm just like, Quinn, my dude, but my man only turns 50 one time in life. Like, let him enjoy it. Let him enjoy. But it's anyway. So I want to say, where do we go from here? Yeah, so from there, so everyone's converging at the drop, obviously within distance, getting ready for it. Duffy's trying to speak to some of the agents to try and make sure they find Trisha somewhere. And I completely forgot to mention, so there was a scene earlier where Quinn is visiting a warehouse to why he was not present at the potential buyout. Because, yes, Trisha is still alive. He is keeping her alive, not for the sake of his morality, but because he managed to score an even bigger deal by including her in the gun buy for one of the buyers. So he's just mainly keeping her alive in pristine condition to get that money. Otherwise, he would have already chopped her up. So sadly, that was not going to go in his favor. But he does drug her up to kind of make her pass out for the moment while they go kind of handle business. So there's no more problems to be had, to be honest with you. So we're at the surveillance lab, and eventually Reacher just has enough of it. He leaves the van. He immediately goes to another car. Apparently, he bought a sniper rifle while everyone wasn't looking, which I'm like, my dude, how did you let a big-ass dude go to a gun shop and get a sniper rifle? Like, what the hell is wrong with you? He and Duffy do get into a little bit of a hissy fit. Duffy kind of getting mad at Reacher that, he lied to her, and Reacher's like, no, I understand your point. I just don't agree with it. So, look, I'm going to kill Quinn, and then I'm gonna run away from this. So, yeah. Do with that information if you will, but this is going to get done. So Duffy just kind of, meanders and goes back to the truck and just kind of, accepts whatever Reacher's about to do. Reacher does call up Neagley to kind of give her a heads up, like, hey, look, in a few minutes, I need you to disconnect your phone, destroy your SIM card, go back to Chicago, erase the last week of correspondence we have to get you distance away from this matter. Which Neagley's like, yeah, I had to figure this was going to happen. So, Reacher is at the drop-off. The trucks are coming. The buyers are arriving. However, when Neagley's hearing this, it's like, wait a minute. I'm with the buyers right now. I'm following them. So once Reacher kind of sees Beck coming out of the car, he's realized, shit. So Quinn gave him the incorrect buyout probably to test if Beck is a mole. So, so sadly, there was no buyout in the field, meaning that everyone is converged on the wrong spot as everyone's heading over to the house right now, which is where the real buyout is happening. So Now Reacher's kind of stuck in a predicament because in the fact Beck is in the middle of this, and if he does get caught, he can possibly either be arrested or killed for misinterpretation. So now Reacher has no choice but to find a way to get Beck out of this, as well as get back to the house to stop the deal. But will we actually get this done? Who the heck really knows? We'll find out next week, because that was it for this week's episode of Reacher. I think this was still a good episode. I still think it's the weakest of the season, in my opinion. This was very much like kind of getting us to the finale. This was very much trying to get all the setup out of the way and to get us prepared for the big one. I know that shouldn't be a claim. Like, like obviously the story's still progressing. We're setting up the pieces, of course, but I do have to be remissive of like where we were at with the season 2s last time. At the same point where like we had a lot of suspense going into that. We knew there were stakes out here. People could have died, and the stakes were high there. Here I understand where the stakes were at, but I didn't really get that fully conveyed, in my opinion. Like, it didn't really fully seep in at me like this is a legitimate time concerning issue. That was just my opinion on the matter. And then the scenes I already did point out the lines. I'm like, yeah, those kind of really took me out of the episode a little bit. Like, it didn't really need to happen. But like I said, it is what it is. Sadly, this is just mainly the one rare case where like it is set up fodder for the next week for the finale, and I think that is what it is. And of course, the most important key thing to why this episode did not falter the way it faltered the way it did was because we didn't have Paulie. Big old Paulie. Well, where was he at? Like, you tell me we didn't have a freaking moment where we could have like checked in with Paulie. Like, look, we know we're gonna get Reacher versus Paulie next week. That's gonna 100% happen. But I just would have loved like one more setup shot, one more. But we just quite didn't get that. We didn't, and I'm very disappointed by that. But with all that being said, I'm giving this episode 1 and 3/4 thumbs up. Let me know down below what you think of this week's episode of Reacher. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Let me know down below. I would love to have a conversation with you about it. But I believe this is going to do for me today, everyone. So if you're unaware, this has been What's the Two from ActionX, reviewing every episode in the 3rd season of Reacher. If you want to know what we're doing normally, What's the Two besides our Reacher episode reviews. Right now, we are doing Suits LA episode reviews each and every Sundays after brand new episodes on Sundays on NBC. We are also doing rookie episode reviews each and every Tuesdays after brand new on ABC, and we would normally be doing Matlock episode reviews each and every Thursdays after brand new on CBS. But if you only care about Reacher, you're in luck. We'll be back with our season 3 finale review very soon, so stay tuned until then. Additionally, after we're done with season 3, we're not quite done with Reacher content just yet. The following week, we will be doing our season 4 predictions, kind of getting a guesstimate what potential book we're going to be getting to see. What do I want to see Reacher kind of go into the next season? What do I want to see him get into? All that sort. And then the following week after that, you will be getting the season 3 definitive review, where we'll talk all of the things spoiler-ish about the 3rd season of Reacher, and that will conclude our Reacher content for the year. But again, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't yet, like, favorite, share if you want to, ring that bell, and follow us on social media for more. But until we see each other again, thank you so much for watching. Please stay safe out there, be good to each other, and as always, peace out.